coming up on 5 Minute News. Prosecutor seeking Trump's taxes cites probe of his business. Survivors of Covid-19 show increased rate of psychiatric disorders. And FAA proposes requiring Boeing 737 MAX design changes. It's Tuesday, August 4. I'm Anthony Davis. A Manhattan prosecutor trying to get Donald Trump's tax returns told a judge yesterday that he was justified in demanding them, citing public records of extensive and protracted criminal conduct at the Trump Organization. Trump's lawyers last month said the grand jury subpoena for the tax returns was issued in bad faith and amounted to harassment of the president. Manhattan District Attorney Cyrus R. Vance, Jr. seeks 8 years of the Republican president's personal and corporate tax records, but has disclosed little about what prompted him to request the records, other than part of the investigation relates to payoffs to women to keep them quiet about alleged affairs with Trump. In a court filing on Monday, though, attorneys for Vance said Trump's arguments that the subpoena was too broad stemmed from the false promise that the probe was limited to so-called hush money payments. They said public reporting demonstrates that at the time the subpoena was issued, there were public allegations of possible criminal activity at the plaintiff's New York County-based Trump Organization dating back over a decade. These reports describe transactions involving individual and corporate actors based in New York County, but whose conduct at times extended beyond New York's borders. This possible criminal activity occurred within the applicable statutes of limitations, particularly if the transactions involved a continuing pattern of conduct, the lawyers said. Last month, the Supreme Court rejected claims by Trump's lawyers that the president could not be criminally investigated while he was in office. Vance's lawyers said Trump was not entitled to know the scope and nature of the grand jury investigation, but they said information already in the public domain about Trump's business dealings provided satisfactory support for the subpoena of his tax records. More than half of people who received hospital treatment for Covid-19 were found to be suffering from a psychiatric disorder a month later, a study has found. Out of 402 patients monitored after being treated for the virus, 55% were found to have at least one psychiatric disorder, according to experts from San Rafael Hospital in Milan found. The results, based on clinical interviews and self-assessment questionnaires, showed post-traumatic stress disorder in 28% of cases, depression in 31%, and anxiety in 42%. Additionally, 40% of patients had insomnia and 20% had obsessive-compulsive symptoms. The findings will increase concerns about the psychological effects of the virus. The paper, published yesterday in the journal Brain, Behavior and Immunity, says PTSD, major depression and anxiety are all high-burden, non-communicable conditions associated with years of life lived with disability. The study of 265 men and 137 women found that women, who are less likely to die from COVID than men, suffered more than men psychologically. Patients with previous positive psychiatric diagnoses suffered more than those without a history of psychiatric disorder. They said psychiatric efforts could be caused by the immune response to the virus itself, or by psychological stressors such as social isolation, psychological impact of a novel, severe, and potentially fatal illness, concerns about infecting others, and stigma. Outpatients showed increased anxiety and sleep disturbances, while, perhaps surprisingly, the duration of hospitalization inversely correlated with symptoms of PTSD, depression, anxiety, and OCD. The Federal Aviation Administration said on Monday it is proposing requiring 4 key Boeing 737 MAX design changes to address safety issues seen in 2 crashes that killed 346 people and led to the plane's grounding in March 2019. The agency is issuing a proposed airworthiness directive to require updated flight control software, revised display processing software to generate alerts, revising several flight crew operating procedures, and changing the routing of some wiring bundles. The announcement is significant, but there are still other major steps, including finalizing pilot training procedures that must be completed before the 737 MAX can resume flying. The public has 45 days to comment on the changes, and it is still unclear if flights will resume before the end of 2020. The FAA said in a separate 96-page report released on Monday that it has determined that Boeing's proposed changes to the 737 MAX design, flight crew procedures and maintenance procedures effectively mitigate the airplane-related safety issues in the two fatal crashes. The FAA said the changes minimize dependence on pilot action and the effect of any potential single failure. The crisis over the grounding of the once top-selling 737 MAX has cost the US plane maker more than $19 billion, with criminal and congressional investigations still ongoing. The agency is also proposing that 737 MAX operators conduct an angle of attack sensor system test and perform an operational readiness flight prior to returning each airplane to service. You can subscribe to 5-Minute News on YouTube with your preferred podcast app. Ask your smart speaker or enable 5-Minute News as your Amazon Alexa flash briefing skill. Visit us online at 5minute.news. 5-Minute News is an independent production covering politics, inequality, health, and climate, delivering unbiased, verified, and truthful world news daily.